Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another exciting episode of Free Advice Friday. Looking forward to spending some time with you guys again today. Looking forward to answering some of your questions. Looking forward to being able to, give you a little bit of help on the business and marketing side of voiceover. So, this is what we do on Free Advice Friday. Welcome, Drew. Looking forward to spending some time with you and, of course, to answering your questions. A couple quick things that I wanted to touch on as we wait for some people to join in and get ready to start the broadcast this week. I want to remind you about booking in your backyard. That is the new masterclass that I'm going to be teaching next week. Actually, I'm going to be teaching that on Tuesday. Booking in your backyard. Actually, it's a class that I've taught before, but I haven't taught it for about 3 years or so. Going through, did some updates, changed a few things. Basically, the idea behind this masterclass is I just want to teach you how to find voiceover work and opportunities right within your own community. That's the goal, to help you figure out how to find voiceover work where you live. Because look, you go to an online casting site, there's tens of thousands or more voice actors that are participating in that online casting site, which means that the competition level is pretty steep on online casting. But you go looking for voiceover opportunities in your own community. Hey, you might be the only voice actor in town, or you might be one of a couple of voice actors in town, which immediately improves your odds. And so I want to show you all the different places that you could be looking for voiceover work in your own community that maybe you aren't even thinking of. And so that's what booking in your backyard is all about. The masterclass happening on the 16th. You're going to be live at 7 o'clock Eastern on Zoom. Of course, if you are unable to attend live for any reason, no worries. You can sign up for the class anyway, and you will be able to get access to a complete video recording of the event once it has concluded. So that is booking in your backyard. That is happening on Tuesday, April the 16th. 7 o'clock Eastern time. The details on the website at marc.coaching.com, and I just put it into the chat as well, so you can check that out. So that is what is going on with booking in your backyard. So for those of you that are jumping into the broadcast, welcome to Free Advice Friday. This is one of my favorite times of the week. This is the part of the week where I just hang out here on YouTube for a little while. And if you've got a voiceover business and marketing question that you would like to get answered, I am here to answer that question for you. So don't be shy. Feel free to ask away. If there's anything that I could answer for you, type it in the comments. I am keeping my eye on the comments. And if anything comes up, I will do my best to answer it. Let me just put out a tweet real quick, live on YouTube, answering voiceover questions now. All right. Going to put a tweet out on YouTube letting people know that we are in fact live, or sorry, a tweet out about being live on YouTube. There we go. So what do you guys want to talk about for Free Advice Friday? What questions can I answer for you? Did you check out the new episode of the podcast? One of the things that I get asked about all the time is subject lines. People want help with subject lines for their emails. What do I put in the subject line? I don't know what to do with subject lines. And so one of the things that I have offered in this new episode of the podcast is 5 tips for mobile-friendly subject lines, because one of the things that you have to think about nowadays is that where are we checking our emails? We are all checking our emails right here. We're checking them on our phone. And so we want to make sure that the subject lines that we are using are displaying properly on phone, because that's where most people are going to be looking. So that episode of the podcast, it's called 5 Tips for Mobile-Friendly Subject Lines. And that one is available now wherever fine podcasts are given away for free, of course, or online at VOpreneur.com. I'll just throw the link in the chat for that one as well. So that is subject lines. If you want to check out that episode, I think it will be helpful. All right, let's take our first question of the day, and it comes from Nathan. What's the best way to get folks to do more than just accept your LinkedIn? How do we go further from there? Anytime that I'm sending a connection request on LinkedIn, I am really trying hard to start a conversation with them. And there's not a fine art to it. The challenge that you have on LinkedIn, same with any of the social media platforms that are out there, you're going to have people who are active on LinkedIn every day. You're going to have people who check LinkedIn maybe once a week. You're going to have people who check maybe once a month. You're going to have people who have set up their LinkedIn profile and never look at their LinkedIn profile ever again. And so that's the first challenge that you have to overcome, is just that not everybody's using the platform consistently. And so how do you measure that becomes one of the questions. And is there a way that you can find better people to ask? Is there a way that you can try to generate better engagement opportunities on LinkedIn? I think the one thing you want to be looking at as you're looking through somebody's LinkedIn profile, just below the about section, there's a section for activity. And that activity section is going to show you, provided that they have it, depending on their privacy settings. But for most people, that activity section is going to show you what kind of activity that person is doing on LinkedIn. So are they reacting? Are they commenting? Are they posting? Are they sharing? All of that sort of stuff. And you'll be able to judge from the activity feed, okay, this person looks like they're active, several times a week, or a couple times a day. But this person hasn't posted anything in 6 months. And so first thing I'm trying to do is determine, based on their activity, is this somebody who is active on LinkedIn or not? If it is somebody who is active on LinkedIn, then there's a better chance that they're going to engage with me. So use that as one of your measuring sticks, Nathan. And then the other thing that I would encourage you with is, don't just come out of the gate or come into their direct messages, as it were, with a sales pitch. Try to start a little bit of a conversation. Ask them about their work. Ask them about things that they're doing. Ask them about something that you've specifically read in their profile. And sometimes that can be a way to kind of get the engagement going. One thing that we do know about LinkedIn is people don't want to be sold right out of the gate, or cold sold, as it would. So if you're sending connection requests to people, and the very first thing that you're saying when they accept your connection request is, "I'm a voice actor. Do you have any voiceover work?" You're going to shut them down. They're not going to be interested. They're not going to engage. So I think that's one of the things that you got to be thinking about. Look for ways that you can create engagement with them by reading through their profile, looking for things that you have in common, looking for things that are interesting, looking for things that you can ask them about, and see if you can warm them up a little bit first with the conversation. Great question, Nathan. And hopefully that answers your question for you and gives you some things to think about as you are using LinkedIn. Guys, LinkedIn is one of the best places to be if you're looking for voiceover work, for sure. There are so many great opportunities to connect on that platform. All right, let's see. Lori says, "Hey, Mark, when do you give up on a lead? I sent an initial email with 2 follow-ups, and then if they didn't respond, I send them a 6-month follow-up. Should I quit sending them emails after that?" So for me, generally speaking, I do not ever give up on a lead unless, one, they specifically ask me to, right? Please stop emailing me. 2, they expressly confirm that they don't use voice actors, or they're not hiring voice actors or anything like that. Or 3, I find some other means of disqualifying them from further communication. So they've gone to a different company and they're no longer in that same role where they work with voice actors, or the website has shut down, or none of them have posted anything on social media in forever, or something like that. So outside of that, though, I never give up on leads, and I'll tell you why. I shared an example in a class that I taught a couple of months ago, where the initial email that I sent to somebody was 9 years ago, like legitimately 9 years ago. And we had multiple back and forth conversations over the last 9 years, but there was never an opportunity until this year when I booked my first job with them. And so if I had given up on that lead, I would have missed out on the opportunity. One of the things I think that you got to take into consideration, if somebody doesn't want to hear from you, what are they going to do? They're probably going to tell you. So I run a newsletter, right? Many of you guys are probably subscribed to my email list, and I send out helpful voiceover tips. I let you know about new videos that I've posted, new podcast episodes that are out there. I let you know about Free Advice Friday, right? I'm always trying to share content that is helpful for the voiceover community. But if those emails landing in your inbox no longer add value to you, what are you going to do? You're going to unsubscribe. So think of it this way. If you're sending emails to these people and they're not responding, but they're also not asking you to stop sending them emails, that means that on some level, they're still interested, right? I send emails every week, and almost nobody interacts with any of those emails that I send. Speaking of my newsletter right now, But eventually, some of you will buy a class from me, or you'll tell somebody else about the podcast or something like that, right? And so when you are ready to engage, you just want to make sure that I'm there and I'm in your inbox and you haven't forgotten about me. I'm assuming that's why you don't unsubscribe. And so I think about email marketing from the same way. If they don't want to hear from you, they will tell you. If they are not telling you and they are continuing to accept your emails, then just assume that the door is still potentially open. So hopefully, Lori, that answers your question, which, by the way, is a really great question. And I think it's an important thing that you've got to reframe how you think about email marketing, because we assume that non-responses just mean dead leads. And granted, yes, sometimes non-responses do just mean dead leads, but sometimes non-responses just mean we're not ready yet. We're interested. We don't want to forget about you. We're going to continue to receive emails from you, but right now we just don't have anything for you. Somebody's coming to visit. Hey, baby, come over here and say hi. You can come over and say hi? No, you're not going to come over and say hi? You're just going to sit in the recliner? Come here, baby. Oh, you're going to be a bum today. Now she doesn't want to come and say hi. She came in. Now she's being all shy. Come on. You say hi? Say hello. Hey, can you say hello? No, you're not going to say hello? Can you wave? Can you say hi, everybody? There's all kinds of people watching right now.
Hello.
Hello. There you go. Say hi to everybody watching. A lot of these people, a lot of these people just come to see you.
No.
Yeah, they don't come to see Daddy. They just come to see you. They want to see what's going on with the boo. Hey, that's what they want. They just want to see what's going on with the boo. What do you got?
Yeah.
Hey? Are you going to go have a nap now? You going to go sleepies?
No.
No, you're not. Mommy just thinks you are. Can you say night-night to everybody?
Mama.
No, because you don't want to go have a nap? Hey? You say night-night?
Daddy.
Say night-night. No? Hey?
Ice that.
All right, baby. Give me a squeeze.
No.
No? Mwah. You say bye-bye? Say bye-bye. Hey?
No.
Bye-bye.
No.
Bye-bye.
No.
No. She's like, don't give me to mommy. Mommy's going to try to put me to sleep. Hey? Have a kiss?
No.
No kiss. All right. There you go. I know that's what many of you show up for, so you got your appearance from the boo. All right, let's get back to questions, shall we? By the way, thanks for coming to Free Advice Friday, everyone. You're like, why is this baby on the screen? I don't understand what's happening right now. The boo likes to come and make an appearance every once in a while, and people like to see her. If you've got a question that you would like to get answered, voiceover business and marketing related question, this is your opportunity. So type it in the comments. I am keeping an eye out for it. Laura says, how soon, approximately, how many exchanges after your LinkedIn contact accepts your invitation to connect? You mentioned your voiceover services. Oh, I'll mention my voiceover services up front, but I'm just not going to come out of the gate and be like, hey, you got any voiceover work for me? I want to try to find out a little bit more about their work that they're doing and whether or not my voiceover services offer value for them. I think the other thing you got to remember is they know you're a voice actor, right? Like, look, go to my LinkedIn profile right now. If I go to my LinkedIn profile, what shows up? Linked under Marc Scott, experienced voice actor for e-learning, documentary, narration, and more, right? So they know as soon as they see your connection request, they know you're a voice actor. So I'm not trying to hide it from them. I just don't want to come out of the gate and be like, hey, Joe, nice to meet you. Got any voiceover work for me? I'm just trying to, start a conversation, build a little bit of a relationship up front first. Now, how soon do we start talking about voiceover? For some people, it happens right away. Sometimes it's, 5 or 6 messages down the road. It depends, but I'm always just trying to have a conversation and to warm them up a little bit first. Joe says, is there a way to set up a signature on LinkedIn Mail? I don't know if that's something that you can do if you're a LinkedIn Premium member, possibly. I'm not 100% sure because I'm not a LinkedIn Premium member, but maybe that's something that you can do in Sales Navigator. But outside of that, I don't know that there's any easy way to do it. I don't know that it's something that I would do anyway. I think of LinkedIn's messaging system more as a chat tool than I do an email tool. So I kind of treat it more like a chat. Don't mind me, guys. I write down time codes so that later on I can go back and add chapters to this video, and then people who want to see answers to specific questions can just jump to those specific questions. William says some leads are only available to message if you have Sales Navigator. Is that worth the price if you're just starting out? So, William, great question. And I just mentioned this too, but I use free LinkedIn. I have only ever used free LinkedIn. I have never paid for Sales Navigator. I've never even actually done a trial on Sales Navigator, even though they consistently offer it to me. And with a free LinkedIn profile, I mean, I'm just looking at my profile right now. I've got 4,134 followers on LinkedIn, and I've got over 3,400 connections. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's not the right link. 3,891 connections on LinkedIn. So, I mean, I've built that with a free profile on LinkedIn. So I think that there's actually a lot that you can do on LinkedIn without having to make the investment in Sales Navigator. Are there other things that Sales Navigator can do for you? Of course, there are other advantages, but there is a ton of stuff that you can do on LinkedIn with just a free membership. You just have to be a little bit more strategic in how you use it. You gotta be smart about how you're using your searches and things of that nature. And that's one of the things that, look, if you want to learn more about LinkedIn, I do offer a LinkedIn masterclass, which is a deep dive into everything you need to know about using LinkedIn as a voice actor, how to set up your profile, how to take advantage of the features that you have access to on LinkedIn, how to grow your network, and all of that sort of stuff. And everything that I teach in that class, it's called Making Money with LinkedIn. Everything that I teach in that class is done with a free profile. So let's throw a link in the chat there if anybody wants to check that out, find out a little bit more about that. But definitely, you can still build a really nice network for yourself, and you can create a good pool of leads still just using the free profile. All right, let's see. Where are we going? Ozzy says, "Hey, Mark, I just booked a spot, 1 year worldwide, digital and social media, retail and events, 1 year USA only, TV cinema, 15K. The session paid immediately, but usage depends. Any advice on this?" Yeah, the session is going to pay immediately because they're booking you. The session fee is just your time, right? It's the time that you spent working. The usage is probably one of those things where they're determining where, in fact, they are going to use it. Although that should have all been stated in the contract up front, right? If we use it here, it's going to be this much. If we use it there, it's going to be this much. If we add this, it's going to be this much. So I would hope that the contract would outline some of that. But yeah, the session fee, it does make sense that it would pay immediately. Usage, I can understand. Maybe they're still trying to decide where it's going to go, or making sure that they use it in all of those different places. But you should still have some sort of an agreement to outline all of that stuff. And guys, this is important. Whether you're booking through your agent, whether you're booking with clients directly, booking through casting sites, anytime we're talking about rates, particularly where we're talking about multiple usages, always make sure that you have some sort of an agreement that you can refer back to later in the event that there's a problem. Obviously, we don't want to assume that there will be problems, but part of our responsibility as a VOpreneur is protecting ourselves in the event that if there is ever a problem, you've got something that you can go back to. Brad says, "Can you ask the group, is anyone getting good results by attaching a specific MP4 to a marketing email?" We talked about that a few months ago. I know a couple of voice actors that are doing, I believe it's called Loom. And Loom is a video service that allows you to make personalized videos and send those personalized videos in your emails. And the one person in particular that I have consistent communication with on that subject, he is having really good results with it. He said that it definitely improved the response rates that he was getting over just regular emails. And so I think it's something that it adds a new level of personalization. I think that it's unique because not a lot of people are doing it. I think if you do a good job of the video, I think that it can really make people pay attention. I think that it can stand out for them. I think that it can attract their attention. It's also something that's going to be a little bit harder to do on a larger scale. And so if I was going to do it, I would be doing it on a much more targeted approach. I would be looking at very specific clients that you really, really want to try to get your foot in the door with, and kind of saving it for that rather than just kind of a blanket approach. Again, just because I think it would be hard to do it at scale. But if you're interested in doing something like that, I think a service like Loom is definitely something worth looking into, because, as I said, I know a few different people that are using it, and they claim that they're having really good results with it. And I can understand why. Look, video is big now, right? And so it's something to think about. I've seen conflictions online of the use of real products businesses used as a mock-up for VO demos. I'd prefer to use a fake business, but can you legally use real scripts like from an iSpot for a demo? I don't know. This is an interesting question, and this would be one that I would want to ask a specific demo producer. I don't know that you can rip off an actual spot. So on demos, you will very often hear actual products. You will hear actual brands, right? People have Nike spots, Apple spots, Carnival Cruise Line spots, Delta Airline spots, whatever. You will hear actual brands on demos. And a big part of that is because, particularly in commercial, one of the things that casting directors are listening for is your ability to highlight the brand. And so that's why they put them in there. But most of those spots that you're hearing on demos are written by the demo producers. So they're not actual commercials. So it's not like they went on iSpot TV and stole a commercial. They have used a brand name and written a commercial around it. That's what most demo producers are doing. I think that's what I would feel more comfortable doing. If you actually took a real script from an iSpot, for example, I think that would potentially open you up to copyright issues and potentially copyright infringement. So I wouldn't want to rip off an actual spot, but there's nothing wrong with using a brand name. Gustavo says, greetings from Portugal. My question, a problem when doing VO is that my mouth does this annoying click quite often. I do know drinking water is very important, but do you have any other suggestions? I do know people talk about, green apples and things of that nature. Hydration is obviously another very important thing. But one of the things that I would say I would encourage you to look into is a software solution. And that is Isotope. And I believe they're up to version 9 now. I think it's RX9. Let me just do a quick Google search. Here we go. RX9. Gustavo, this is for you. I'm going to put this in the chat. I'm just going to tag you here. Isotope's declicker is absolutely fantastic. I have actually used, I think I'm on version 7 maybe, but I've been using it for a few years now, and their declicker is absolutely amazing. You have to be careful with the settings. If you go a little too far, it might take out too much. It might make your audio sound a little funky in places. But if you can get it set up and dialed in right, it will remove a lot of those clicks. And I think it's a really, really great tool and absolutely worth the investment. I had the good fortune, Uncle Roy was at my home a couple of years ago. He was in my studio, and he found out that I didn't have Isotope. And so he actually made me buy it while he was here. And then he set it all up for me while he was here in my studio. So if it's an investment that you're going to make, it might also be worth, if you're not familiar with it, it might be worth talking to somebody like Uncle Roy and just having him dial in the specs on it for you. But definitely it is really great. It is a really great piece of software, and it does work as advertised. There is a declicker that is in Adobe Audition, and I have used that declicker in Adobe Audition, but I don't think it works as well. I think Isotope definitely works better. What home studio VO booth style do you recommend for someone starting out with a low budget? It's funny. We go out and we buy our studio bricks and our whisper rooms, and we spend $10,000 or $15,000 on these studio bricks and whisper rooms, and then we go to a voiceover conference, and you're sitting at One Voice in Dallas, and a client comes in with a really urgent voiceover, and what do? You put an ironing board on the desk, you throw a blanket over your head, you tuck a couple of pillows in, and then you record. And the client can't tell the difference between your free ironing board pillow fort and your $15,000 studio bricks. And so I think that sometimes we overthink what we need for a booth. I know a lot of voice actors that are just recording in spare closets, and some of them don't even have it treated. They just leave the clothes in there, and it gives them enough treatment. I know a lot of voice actors that have built booths out of PVC pipe and moving blankets, and they work fantastic. If you get a vocal booth to go, Or if you go out and buy one of George Whittam's tri-booths, which Joe Cipriano's a big fan of, and he used to record when he was in Italy, what is that made out of? It's made out of PVC pipe and moving blankets. And so if you're trying to do something that is low cost because you're just getting started out, PVC pipe and moving blankets, it can be done. If it is done right, PVC pipe and moving blankets will give you a good sound. The biggest thing that you have to overcome is the outside noise. And even a whisper room can't completely do that. If you live on a busy highway and you're 5 feet away from the road, even a whisper room isn't going to be able to completely cut out all of the noise of transport trucks driving by. If you are in the flight path of Heathrow Airport, every time an airplane flies overhead, a Studio Bricks isn't necessarily going to make all of that go away, right? So controlling the outside noise is a big part of it, but you don't have to have anything fancy. I mean, look, that's my booth there. I know it's kind of hard to see. There's my booth right there. That booth is built out of 2x4s and insulation and drywall, and it's amazing, and it sounds amazing, and it sounds just as good as a Studio Bricks, and it cost me a fifth of the price because I had to buy 2x4s and drywall, and I built it myself. So I think that's one of the things that I would be looking at is you just need something that sounds quiet, that's not too dead. And you know, part of it too, I think, depends on the microphone that you're using. I think that's another big thing, right? A 416, which is a shotgun microphone, it's going to pick up what's straight in front of it. Whereas a U87 is going to pick up everything that's all around it. And so the microphone can make a difference in the space as well. But definitely, I think there are ways that you can do it low budget. Like I said, get a closet, fill it with clothes, buy some PVC, wrap it in moving blankets, and you can make a really nice booth for yourself that sounds really great, sounds really clean, sounds really professional. Let's see, where are we going? Does every type of job have a session fee? How do you determine that rate? This is an interesting question, Mark, and I think so. Primarily, where session fees came from originally, they came in the commercial side of things. So the session fee was the fee that the voice actor got to show up and do the recording. So that was like paying them for their time, right? If you came for an hour-long session in the studio to do the recording, the session fee covered your time. Usage was the payment that you received for where that was aired. So if they ultimately decided to take that spot that you recorded and broadcast it nationally, you got X amount of dollars for your session fee, and then you got X amount of dollars for the usage. And the session fee protected you so that in the event that the client decided, you know what, we're not going to air that commercial after all, you still were getting paid something. You were still getting paid for your time, which was your session fee. That's where it came from originally. Now I think that voice actors have overcomplicated it and started turning it into, you know, session fees for absolutely everything. And I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. One of the things that I would encourage you with, and I know there are people that are going to disagree with me on this, and that's fine too. I just want to give my clients one number. If we're not talking about multiple usages, right? So if a client comes to me for e-learning, I just want to give them a rate. If a client comes to me for an explainer video that's going to go on a tiny little YouTube channel, I just want to give them a rate. I don't want to overwhelm them with, oh, it's this much for this, and this much for this, and this much for this, and this much for this. I just want to give them a rate. Now, if a client comes to me and says, you know, we're creating this video that may be used as a 30-second commercial locally, and it may be used on YouTube in a pre-roll advertisement, then that's where I'm going to break it down a little bit more. Then you're going to see the session fee, and you're going to see this much usage to be for a broadcast spot, this much usage for a YouTube pre-roll, and then they ultimately get to decide, okay, you know what, we are going to use it or we're not going to use it, and then you build the rate based out on that. So I think that's how I would look at it. When it comes to determining rates, though, absolutely, the GVAA rate guide is a completely invaluable resource. Everybody should be familiar with the GVAA rate guide. Everybody should have that rate guide bookmarked. Gravy for the Brain has a really great rate guide as well. And the thing I like about Gravy for the Brain is that it is, they've got multiple countries, right? So, because look, the GVAA rate guide, just as a reminder, that is a US-based rate guide. Just because the GVA rate guide says something does not mean that you're going to get those rates if you book a spot in Ireland, for example. The GVA rate guide, where it gets confusing, it's called the Global Voice Acting Academy, but the rate guide is a US-based rate guide. It is based on US market, US economy, US dollars. Gravy for the Brain has rate guides for multiple countries, which helps you get a better sense of rates for different countries that you may be working in. And that one is available at rates.gravyforthebrain.com. So that one is definitely worth checking out. Gravy for the Brain rate guide. Let me just throw this in the chat. It's rates.gravyforthebrain.com. So there's that one. And the GVAA rate guide. Let me just put a link in here for those of you that aren't familiar with it. GVAA rate guide. You can check that one out as well. So there's a couple of links to check out. And I think that those will those are definitely invaluable resources that every voice actor should familiarize themselves with. All right, let's see. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on in the chat. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Sean says, I recommend the LinkedIn class. I used it. Thank you, Sean, for that. For those of you that are interested, definitely that making money with LinkedIn, it will do that. It will teach you how to make money with LinkedIn. Troy says, I see a trend in treated rooms versus treated booths these days. Roomier, cooler for sure. One of the things that I think you have to be very careful of is when you build a booth for yourself and then you just put floor to ceiling Orlex, like foam or whatever, right? So literally the whole entire complete inside of the booth is foam from top to bottom and all the way through. I think that you make the space sound too dead. I would show you the inside of my booth right now, but my camera cord isn't long enough to stretch that far. I have panels directly in front of me. So when I'm sitting in the booth or standing in the booth, there's panels right in front of me. There are 2 cloud panels hanging from the ceiling. And then there is one big panel right behind me, which more than anything is just to cover the ugly electrical circuit panel that's in my booth. But that's it. That's all the treatment I have in my booth. So it's not a completely 100% dead space. And I don't know that 100% dead space is what people are looking for. And so I think that's why you see more and more treated rooms. I mean, what is a treated room? It's just a big booth, right? I mean, are you going to go into a 20 by 30 foot room and put up a couple panels and record voiceovers in there? Probably not. But if you're in a 10 by 12 bedroom, actually, that's a great example. For a number of years, I lived in an apartment and I recorded in a spare bedroom. And it was, I think it was a 12 by 12 room. And I was very limited with what I could do because it was an apartment and I rented. And so strategic placement of panels, again, in front of me, above me, and a couple behind me. And I recorded in that room for years and nobody ever knew the difference. I didn't have a booth. I didn't have the ability to build a booth. There was nowhere for me to put a booth. So I think that sometimes we overthink the whole booth thing too much. I think sometimes it look, can I say this? It turns into a penis measuring contest, right? We all want to have the biggest and the best and the fanciest booth. And look, the guy that's recording in a vocal booth to go is delivering sometimes just as good of audio as somebody that's in a Studio Bricks. Does that mean you shouldn't get a Studio Bricks? Of course not. Work your way up to that though, right? I mean, I recorded in my living room for a bunch of years because there was nowhere else for me to record. And so I treated it the best that I could. And then I got to a point where I had a spare bedroom. And so then I recorded in a spare bedroom and I treated it the best that I could and made the best of what I had with the space that I had. And then when we moved into the house that we moved into now, we've been here since 2017. I finally had the opportunity to build an office/studio. Now I have a booth. It's totally separate. But for the first number of years, I didn't have that. I had a 6-figure voiceover business recording in a spare bedroom. And so sometimes I think we just overthink it and spend too much money. And now I'm going to get in trouble because there's going to be all these people that have bought all this stuff and be like, what are you saying? My whisper room's not as good as a vocal booth to go or blah, 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 blah. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when you're starting out, maybe spending $10,000 on a Studio Bricks isn't the best investment for you when you could get away with PVC and moving blankets and, spend $600 to get yourself set up and get yourself going. That's all I'm saying. Work your way up to it. Don't bankrupt yourself in the beginning. You got enough expenses when you're starting out your voiceover business already by spending on coaching and demos and all of those sorts of things, right? Cody says, looking into getting coaching for explainer videos. Any recommendations? JMC is who I did some coaching with for explainer videos, and JMC did my explainer video demo. So I would absolutely recommend that JMC is somebody that you could look into. I think Yan Ganguza is somebody else that you could also talk to about explainers. And I know that she offers explainer demos and coaching packages. And so I would check out either one of those, Cody. And I don't think you're going to go wrong with either one of those people. I think you're going to end up getting a really great coaching and ultimately a really great demo if that's where you decide to go. And explainer video is a great little market. There's some money to be made in that market for sure. I think that it's there's a lot of it out there. They're usually more affordable for people to do than say a commercial, but it gives them some sort of a marketing video that they can use for their product, their service, their brand. They can put it on their website or whatever. And so it's a nice little market to get into. So I would have a conversation with either JMC or Ann, or have a conversation with both of them. Christopher says, Mark, when searching for an agent, should I embed a voice player or a link of demos samples with the initial email? The first thing I would say, Christopher, is do what the agent asks you to do. Not all of them will tell you. So just to be clear, but some of them do have very specific submission guidelines. And sometimes that is they want you to attach MP3s. Sometimes they want links to MP3s. So I would say first and foremost, make sure that you're following whatever the guidelines are that are set by the agent if they are setting guidelines. The next thing I would say is whatever you decide to do, that you make it as easy as humanly possible. So I either want a straight link to a demo or I want an MP3 that is attached. If I'm reaching out to an agent, I'm probably going to, at the very least, attach a commercial demo and then let them know that I have other demos that are available. But definitely, first and foremost, make sure you see if they give any specific instructions for what they want before you send anything, because you don't want to eliminate yourself from the running before you even get started by not being able to follow the basic instructions. Which, by the way, guys, let me talk about this for a minute. And I will get to I know there's other questions here in the chat, and I will get to those other questions in the chat, but I want to talk about something. I'm working on an online casting series for the Everyday VOpreneur podcast. That series is going to start in September. So far, I have interviewed Liz Atherton from Cast Voices, and I have interviewed Armin the Rockstar from Bidalgo. Rolf, the CEO of Voice 123, Rolf Feldman, has confirmed an interview with me. And I'm also going to be interviewing Kevin West from VO Planet. And so just going to be talking about the casting sites, what they have to offer, and all of that sort of stuff. In my interview with Cast Voices, there was one story that Liz shared, and I can talk about it here because it's in the podcast. The episode's not coming out until September. There was a casting director that posted a job on Cast Voices and collected 100 submissions from voice actors. And according to the casting director, he reached out to Liz to provide this feedback. 53 out of 100. 53 out of 100 auditions got thrown in the garbage because they didn't follow the naming instructions that the casting director had put in the audition. 53 out of 100 auditions thrown out without consideration because they didn't follow basic instructions in the audition. This is something that I've talked about before, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse when it comes to talking about the importance of following directions on your auditions. But I want you to think about a different perspective that is not being considered here. If you go onto Amazon and over the span of a month, you place 10 different orders with Amazon, and 5 of those orders never show up, or you get the wrong product, or the order is screwed up in some form or fashion, are you going to lose faith in Amazon and their ability to provide the service that they say that they can provide? Now apply this to Cast Voices. If 50% of the voice actors in a casting screw the pooch, do you think that is going to make that casting director have more faith in Cast Voices or less faith in Cast Voices? Do you think that is going to make that casting director come back and post more jobs on Cast Voices or post less jobs on Cast Voices? Do you think that by 53% of voice actors screwing the pooch on the job, do you think that that is going to make that casting director tell his friends about this amazing site, Cast Voices? Or do you think it's going to make him say, you might want to stay away from Cast Voices because the voice actors there evidently don't have a clue what they are doing? When you're on casting sites and you're not following the directions on a casting site, not only are you hurting your chances of booking, but you're also increasing the likelihood that clients are not going to come back to that site in the future, which means fewer audition opportunities for you. There's more to this story. Not only did 53% screw the pooch by not following the very specific audition naming structure that the casting director asked for, an additional 25% submitted even though they did not remotely match the specs, but they wanted to be able to pitch themselves. I don't know what the specific specs were in this case, but let's just say the casting director was asking for a 25-year-old British male. And so a whole bunch of other voice actors who are not 25-year-old British males reach out, submit, take one of the available 100 slots, because remember, they only asked for 100 slots or 100 auditions in the first place. So 25 out of those 100 slots went to voice actors who didn't even match the specs. They were just reaching out and saying, I know I don't match the specs for this job, but I was hoping that you'd listen to my demo and consider me for jobs in the future. What are you doing? What are you doing? Insanity that 53% of voice actors would screw it up by not following basic instructions, and another 25% would submit even though they weren't qualified. You're taking slots away from voice actors who are qualified because now the audition maxes out, and a whole bunch of the people that were collected don't even qualify, don't even fit the job specs. This is insanity to me. So, guys, you got to be so careful when you are using these casting sites. If you are not following the instructions, don't be so desperate for work. Don't be in such a hurry to book the job or to try to book the job that you're not even reading what the person is asking for, because you are only hurting yourself in the long run. You're making yourself look like somebody who can't follow directions. You're making yourself look amateur. And it doesn't reflect well on the site either. And you may think, well, what happens to the site is not my problem. Just remember, you're the one that's paying money to be on the site. And if you're screwing up the auditions and making people not want to come back and post jobs in the future, you're only hurting yourself. For the love of cheese and bacon, people, pay attention to the directions. Please, please. Pay attention to the directions. The online casting series on the Everyday VOpreneur podcast is going to start in September. I posted a picture in the Facebook group yesterday in the VOpreneur Facebook group that outlines when those interviews are coming. But let me just pull this up for you here quickly. So we're going to start out on September 8th with Karen Gilfrey, who is going to be offering strategies for auditioning on casting sites. September 15th is going to be Armin from Bidalgo. September 22nd, Liz Atherton from Cast Voices. And September 29th is going to be Rolf from Voice 123, and hoping to get Kevin West in from VO Planet for the October 6th episode. Although Kevin is currently on vacation, and so we're just going to try to see if we can work it out when he gets back. But definitely make sure that if you're using those casting sites, you want to check out this casting site series, because you might be able to learn some things from the people who are behind those sites and making those sites possible. So anyway, that's my rant on casting sites. I apologize. I don't want to feel like I'm preaching to you, but I feel like it's really important that you're paying attention to this stuff, because ultimately you're only hurting yourself. So focus on what you're doing when you're submitting these auditions, and don't cost yourselves opportunities before you even get started. All right, let's see, where are we going? Let's get back to questions. By the way, guys, for those of you jumping in, this is Free Advice Friday. I am hanging out, and I am here to answer your voiceover business and marketing questions. If there are things that you want to talk about, questions you want to ask, please Type those questions into the comments. I'm watching for them to come up on my screen, and I am happy to answer questions for you. That's what I'm hanging out and doing. That is what this is all about. So let's see. Do you ever ask your clients for their budget before quoting rates for a non-broadcast job? Always, always, always. Always, always, always. I want to try and get a budget if I can. And I don't just write them and say, like, hey, what's your budget? I write them back and say, I want to try to provide you with the most fair and accurate quote as possible. Before I do that, is there a budget that you're trying to work within? I kind of frame it like that. And so, but I do always ask that question. And sometimes those budgets are going to be a lot lower than what I'm planning on quoting. But hey, every once in a while, those budgets are a lot higher than what you might have been expecting. And so if you're not at least asking the question, you could potentially find yourself in a position where you're leaving money on the table. All right, let's see. Where are we going? Kurt says, love it. It's not your booth. It's your acting that makes you the money. And that's true. I mean, yes, you have to have good sound, guys. Don't get me wrong. You have to have good sound. I'm just saying you may not need to spend $10,000 to get to good sound. When I built the office that I'm in now, I mean, it cost me somewhere around $15,000, or maybe it was a little bit more than that. I don't even remember exactly. But I literally have like a 25 by 12 foot space that I built from nothing. It was concrete floors and cinder block walls. I had to frame it. I had to wire it. I had to insulate it. I had to drywall. Like, I started from nothing, but I just did that in 2017. I had been doing voiceover full time since 2012, and I had been doing voiceover part time for probably another 5 or 8 years before that. Like, it took me a while to build up to this point. And that money that I spent, it wasn't just my booth, it's my whole office area in general where I sit and work. But you can, work up to that, is what I think. All right, let's see. Where are we going? 46, 40. Lauren says, Mark, I've heard you talk about Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. Is Crushing It a new edition or the original or a completely different book? Crushing It would be like the sequel. So it talks about a number of other new platforms that have come out. Crush It talked about a lot of different social media platforms and ways to use social media platforms and just some of the different strategies that are available to people to market themselves. Crushing It is, like I said, it's like a sequel that introduces new platforms and new strategies that have come out since the original book. So it is a different book. And I have read both of them. Crush It was the first one that I ever read. But Crushing It, I think I read that at the end of last year or early this year when I finally got around to reading Crushing It, and a lot of good tips in that one as well. All right. Spooky Bob says, is there a place where we can practice or show our talents before ruining our reputations? I think there's a couple of options that are available for you there. First and foremost, that's where you're working with a coach, right? Every voice actor, before you start submitting auditions, I think that you should be working with a coach, and that coach should tell you that you're ready to submit auditions, because if you don't do that, then you may be ruining your reputation, but you're also wasting the time of people who are looking to hire legitimate voice actors for legitimate projects. And I don't want to ever waste anybody's time. So I do think that working with the coach is the first place to start, and making sure that coach, when that coach says you're ready, then you know you're ready. I think the other option that is available for you are workout groups. And there are countless workout groups that meet. And sometimes those workout groups are led by a mentor or a coach or a guest director. And sometimes those workout groups are just kind of peer led with people who are at different places in their voiceover industry. And so sometimes those can be really helpful as well. I think the other thing that you can do if you're looking for kind of low cost options is listen to demos. Go to J. Michael Collins' website. Right? Go to the JMC demo website. Let me just pull this up. JMC. J. Michael has produced somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 bazillion demos. And you can go to his website and you can listen to all of the 50 bajillion demos that he has produced. JMC demos. But listen to those demos, because those are, Spooky Boo. Sorry, I said Spooky Bob. Those demos on JMC's website, those are going to give you an idea of what's trending right now. Those are going to give you a really good idea of where reads are at right now. And so then you can get a good sense of, do my reads match what's going on these demos. That can be another option for trying to practice and trying to confirm where you're at and whether or not you're where you need to be. But I still definitely always encourage everybody, you've got to do at least some coaching. That is a big thing. You have to do at least some coaching. Briscoe VO, I just got an audition request for Cast Voices at 134 and it's already filled by 143. And that is one of the challenges with any casting site, right? If you're not standing by in your booth, these spaces fill up fast. Voice 123 works the same. Bidalgo works the same. Although Bidalgo now has put a 24-hour casting. So I think this is one of the things that Armin told me in the interview that I did with him for Bidalgo. Rather than doing a casting limit, so, we want 25 auditions, we want 100 auditions, whatever, what Bidalgo is doing is every project just goes with an automatic 24-hour limit now. And so it's just however many auditions get submitted in 24 hours, that's how many auditions get submitted. But yeah, with Cast Voices, look, we're talking about professional voice actors. A lot of them are probably full-time professionals. And so they're in their booth all day long and they're ready to submit as soon as it comes in. Cast Voices, though, does limit, right, where you can only submit a certain number of auditions. And so casting directors get to decide how many auditions they're going to collect. And look, sometimes, and this doesn't just happen on Cast Voices, this happens on other casting sites. I've had this happen to me when I used to use Voice 123 back in the day. There were a couple of instances where I submitted an audition and then the client just hired me, shut the project down and hired me. Sometimes they hear what they want and then they don't even need to hear anything else because they just find that exact same thing or they find that exact thing that they're looking for. And so then they don't need to go any further. But that is part of the rat race of pay-to-play sites, which that's one of the reasons why I don't use them anymore, because it was totally messing with my head. Like, I'm at the grocery store buying milk for my kids so they can have cereal for breakfast in the morning, and 5 auditions come in while I'm at the store buying milk, and I'm sitting there stressing in the checkout line, wondering why this person is taking so long to find their credit card in their purse, because don't you know you're costing me money while I'm standing here waiting for you to find your credit card because 5 auditions just came in, and now by the time I get home, 100 people are already going to submit it for every single one. You understand? Right? Do you feel my pain? Have you been there? Have you felt that? That's one of the reasons why I'm not on casting sites anymore, because they were literally making me mental. And I decided that for the sake of my mental health, I couldn't do it anymore. Steve says, rant on. Liz said the same thing on Clubhouse. It is unreal. What is going on? What is going on? I don't understand what's happening when 53% of voice actors are screwing the pooch on auditions. That's just absolutely insanity. All right, where are we going? Pete says, just joined. What is your number one social media promotion tip? Go where your buyers are. Pete, that is my number one tip. Go where your buyers are. Obviously, when it comes to choosing what social media platforms you are on, we want to choose platforms that we enjoy. We want to choose platforms that we are likely to use. We want to choose platforms that are fun for us. We want to choose platforms that give us the type of content that we want to create. And all of those things are important, right? But you also need to think about where your buyers are. So I can say for me, as an example, a lot of the work that I'm doing is in the corporate non-broadcast space. I do a lot of e-learning, a lot of corporate videos and things of that nature. And I know that for me, a lot of my buyers are on LinkedIn. And so that is a place that I'm devoting a lot of time to, because I know that that's where my buyers are. On the flip side of that, if you're interested in doing character and animation work, for example, a lot of those buyers and a lot of that community is very popular on Twitter. And so maybe Twitter makes a little bit more sense. So rule number 1 is go where your buyers are. Rule number 2 is build a network of buyers, not just a network of voice actors. So what I mean by that is, if you sign up for a social media platform and the very first thing you do is connect with 1,000 other voice actors, they're not your buyers. You need to start your social media platform and start building a network of 1,000 potential leads. So that's rule number 2. Rule number 1, go where your buyers are. Rule number 2, build a network of buyers. And rule number 3, as you are creating content, ask yourself, is this relevant to, or does this add value to my buyers? because now that you've gone to a social media platform where your buyers are, and you've built a network that is filled with potential buyers, you're going to reach them by sharing content that is relevant to them. And so I know you said, what's your best tip? What's your number one tip? My number one tip is those 3 tips. Pete, hopefully that is helpful. Social media is a very powerful place, and it absolutely gives you it gives you access to a lot of potential new leads. It gives you access to potential clients, sometimes to direct bookings when you see castings that are getting posted. So I think that it is something that everybody's got to use. But here's the other thing I will say about social media too. It does not happen overnight. It does not happen overnight. I have been using LinkedIn forever, and I book jobs on LinkedIn consistently, but it's because I am using it consistently. I didn't just sign up for LinkedIn and then used it for a month or two and nothing happened. And then I was like, this is pointless. Nothing's happening. I just kept using the platform. Like, that's it. I just kept using the platform. And so I think that's one of the other things that you think about. If you've been on a social media platform for a month or two and you haven't seen any results yet, come back to me in 2 years. After you've been using it consistently, daily, weekly, for 2 years, then come back to me. And if you're not seeing results, then we can have a conversation. But if you're doing it after 2 months, it's too soon. Got to be present. Gwen says, I just wanted to say thank you for your podcast on directed sessions. It was invaluable. I had my first directed session a few weeks after that and could hear you in my head. It went so well. Many thanks. Awesome, Gwen. I love it. I'm so glad that you enjoyed that episode. You want to talk about one area of voiceover where voice actors overthink massively. That is one of those episodes. We massively overthink the directed sessions, and I think we get them built up into our heads into something that they really aren't, or something that they were never really intended to be. That episode, How to Have a Better Directed Voiceover Session, episode 165 of the podcast, and I just threw it in the chat there for any of you that want to go back and listen to it. Go listen to that one. If you've got a Source Connect session coming up, or a Zoom session or whatever, and you are stressed out about it, I would say absolutely go and check out that episode, and I think there will be some helpful tips for you there. Social media activity is a huge part of the job. Marc is dead on. Yep, you got to be there. Got to let people know you're there. Kurt says, love it. So Twitter, video games, animation, TikTok, Instagram, commercial, LinkedIn, narration, e-learning. I think that's, on a generalized level, I think that's probably fairly safe to say, but I wouldn't eliminate that. Like, I've noticed in the last couple of months, and I talked to a couple other voice actors about this, because this is something I've never seen before. I've been on Twitter since forever, like practically since it came into existence. In the last couple of months, I've seen something very interesting on Twitter that I've never seen before. Almost every day, hashtag e-learning is a trending hashtag on Twitter. At least for me, it shows up as a trending hashtag. And that is something that I would have never said before. I would have never guessed before. I used to try to find e-learning on Twitter, and there really wasn't a lot of activity in the Twitter space for e-learning, which is one of the reasons why I started devoting so much time to LinkedIn. But now there are people doing e-learning, and they are doing it on Twitter, and they are talking about it on Twitter. So could you use that guide that you've just shared as kind of a general rule of thumb? I think that you can, but does that mean that it's impossible to find other work in other places? Absolutely not, because I can give you another example of a voice actor that's in my mastermind group this year, and he is finding video game opportunities consistently through LinkedIn. He's getting connected with the right people, and that is opening him up to video game opportunities by making those connections and establishing those relationships on LinkedIn. So I think that the possibilities for voiceover in multiple genres exist on multiple platforms. You just have to decide how you want to use them. And part of that is deciding, what are the genres that I'm going to go after? What are the areas that I want to target and use strategically? And if there's buyers there and you can connect with them, then great. What time is it? Ooh, look at that. Time flies when you're having fun on Free Advice Friday. It's already 1:58. All right. Did I miss any questions? I could take one more question. If somebody's got one, I can stick around for one more question. I'm just going to scroll back through here quickly and see, did I miss anything? But if you do have another question, I got time for one more if somebody wants to ask it. Please check out Booking in Your Backyard coming up on Tuesday. I'm going to teach you local marketing. I'm going to teach you all the different places to look for voiceover work right within your own community. That session, again, is happening on August 16th. We will be live at 7 o'clock on Zoom, but if you can't attend live, sign up, get access to the video recording. You're not going to miss anything. So you can check that out at marcscottcoaching.com. That is Booking in Your Backyard. The link, I did post the link in the chat earlier. Thank you so much for taking the time, for sharing. Absolutely. Always happy to hang out and answer questions. Always happy to dispense a little bit of advice. Doing these broadcasts, I say it all the time. Doing this keeps me sharp. The questions that you guys are asking keeps me sharp. It makes me stay on trend and makes me see what's using, see what people are talking about, see what information is useful. AJB, is it ethical to use my free casting site profile on my business card? Yeah, you can absolutely promote your free casting site profile on your business card. No question about it. Talk to any casting site. They would love for you to promote your free profile on your business card. Here's the flip side of that, though. If you are directing people to a casting site with your business card, what you're doing is you're directing them to your profile, but you're also directing them to potentially multi-thousands of other voice actors. And so if I'm going to do the direct marketing myself and I'm going to put in the effort to grow my voiceover business with my own clients, I want to make sure that I am driving traffic to my website because I want to keep those leads for myself. I'm a selfish bugger. I don't want to promote 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 other voice actors by sending them to a casting site where they can search and find somebody else. I would rather send them to my own website. Now, I'm guessing the reason why you're asking that question, maybe you don't have a website. I'm not sure. But I would say if I had to choose, I would absolutely be sending them to my website first. But you can absolutely promote your free casting site profiles. You can post them on social media, post them on your website, whatever. Obviously, a number of the casting sites actually encourage you to do that because it's good for them for SEO. It's called backlinks. The more sites that they have, the more relevant sites that they have linking back to their site, the better their SEO, which is why many of the casting sites encourage voice actors to link to their casting site profiles from their website. And that's great for SEO for the casting site itself. But again, to me, it's just potentially driving clients into the wide open arms of all of my fellow voice actors. And as much as I'm a giving and generous and loving Canadian guy, I don't want to promote my competition that much. So I'm always just driving to my website. All right, guys, that's a wrap on Free Advice Friday. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for your questions. As always, thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks for watching the YouTube videos. By the way, you're here, you're watching Free Advice Friday. Make sure you check out the rest of my YouTube channel. Tons of videos, hundreds of videos of voiceover tips on my YouTube channel. And all of those can be very, very helpful for you as you are working to grow your voiceover business. I'm just looking ahead at my calendar. I do have a time slot for Free Advice Friday next Friday. So provided that nothing else crazy comes up, we'll probably be back here. Same time, same channel. Another opportunity for you to ask questions and get them answered. Thank you guys so much for watching Free Advice Friday. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. Whatever you decide to do this weekend, have fun, stay safe, and you know what the drill is. Get out there and go find some leads.